Words are not empty sounds strung together for the sake of communication. They are carriers of energy, reflections of the mind, and windows into the state of one's inner world. Every word chosen, spoken, or even whispered to oneself contains within it a vibration that shapes both the speaker and the listener. When a person speaks, they are not merely expressing thoughts, they are transmitting energy, and that energy reveals more than the literal meaning of the words. It reveals alignment or disconnection, harmony or struggle, clarity or confusion. The outer sound of speech becomes a mirror that shows the invisible movements within. When one begins to observe conversations with awareness, something striking becomes visible. Some words lift while others weigh down. A single phrase can encourage, empower, and elevate, while another can drain, diminish, and destroy. What makes the difference is not only the arrangement of letters, but the energy that accompanies them. A kind word spoken without sincerity carries little weight, while even a simple phrase spoken with truth and presence penetrates deeply. Words are not neutral, they come alive with the spirit of the one who utters them, revealing the true condition of the mind behind them. The way a person speaks is often more telling than the words themselves. A sentence filled with complaints reveals a restless and dissatisfied mind. A sentence full of blame reveals a mind caught in resistance and projection. A sentence that carries gratitude reveals openness and receptivity. A sentence spoken with calm and few unnecessary embellishments reveals inner stillness. In this way, the voice becomes a bridge between the hidden energy of the inner world and the visible outer world. Even silence before words, the pause between them, speaks loudly about the depth of awareness. Energy moves through language like water flowing through a riverbed. When the bed is cluttered with rocks of negativity, anger, or fear, the flow is turbulent and harsh. The words that emerge are sharp, cutting, and often leave wounds. But when the riverbed is cleared by mindfulness, discipline, and clarity, the flow is smooth, steady, and nourishing. Such words refresh like cool water offered to a thirsty traveler. What is inside is always revealed outside, and words are one of the clearest channels for this revelation. Consider how self-talk influences one's energy. When the inner dialogue is harsh, filled with self-criticism and judgment, it produces heaviness in the body and tightness in the mind. This weight then seeps into outer speech, coloring interactions with negativity or defensiveness. On the other hand, when the inner voice becomes compassionate, steady, and disciplined, energy expands instead of contracts. This expansion shapes outer speech into something constructive, empowering, and grounded. Thus, before words ever touch the ears of another, they have already shaped the energy of the one who speaks them. In daily life, people often underestimate the impact of casual words. A quick remark, spoken without awareness, can stay with someone for years, either as a wound or as encouragement. A careless statement may discourage growth, while a thoughtful one may spark transformation. Words are seeds planted in the soil of another's mind. Depending on the energy carried within them, they may grow into weeds of doubt or flowers of confidence. For this reason, mindful speech is not about choosing fancy language, but about aligning inner energy with clarity and intention before speaking. There is also the unspoken energy beneath words. Tone, rhythm, pace, and even the pauses between syllables all reveal something about the inner condition. A hurried tone reveals impatience. A slow and heavy tone may reveal weariness, while a calm and steady tone reveals presence. Even laughter can be hollow or full, revealing whether it comes from genuine joy or nervous escape. These subtle layers of expression show that speech is never just speech. It is a map of the inner landscape, shared openly with those who listen. Words are also a test of discipline. The undisciplined mind spills words without consideration, scattering energy in every direction. Such speech often leads to misunderstandings, conflicts, and regret. The disciplined mind, however, understands that words are tools, and every tool must be used with care. By holding back unnecessary speech, conserving energy, and choosing words aligned with truth, one not only communicates more clearly, but also strengthens the flow of inner energy. This restraint is not suppression but refinement, like sharpening a blade until it can cut cleanly without wasted effort. When one recognizes the connection between words and energy, listening becomes as important as speaking. By listening attentively, one can sense the energy behind another's words. The voice may be soft, but the energy behind it may be sharp. The words may be loud, but the energy behind them may be weak. This sensitivity allows one to understand not only what is being said, but what is truly being expressed. In this way, communication becomes less about exchanging information and more about perceiving the flow of energy between two beings. To refine one's words is therefore to refine one's inner state. Instead of beginning with language itself, the work begins within. By cultivating stillness, clarity, and discipline, one naturally transforms the quality of speech. Words spoken from such a place carry an energy that heals, inspires, and connects. They reveal not chaos but order, not fear but strength, not confusion but understanding. Over time, such speech becomes not only communication but also practice, a way of training the self while simultaneously influencing the world around. Disrespect does not always arrive loudly, nor does it always come in obvious forms that are easy to point at and say, "This is wrong." More often than not, it walks in quietly, clothed in gestures that appear harmless, wrapped in tones that sound polite, or carried in habits that seem ordinary. It is this very subtlety that makes disguised disrespect more dangerous than its open counterpart. When someone insults you directly, the clarity of the act makes it easier to identify and respond. But when disrespect wears the mask of kindness, when it hides beneath excuses, when it is softened with just enough politeness to keep you questioning yourself, then the mind hesitates. You begin to wonder if you are imagining things, if perhaps you are being too sensitive, if maybe it is your own perception creating discomfort. And this hesitation is the beginning of erosion. Disrespect in disguise often shows itself through small dismissals. A word spoken casually, but with an undertone that devalues your effort. A laugh at your expense, framed as a joke, but one that leaves a sting you cannot ignore. A suggestion delivered in a way that undermines your competence, yet wrapped in the language of help. These moments, small as they seem, gather weight with repetition. What makes them insidious is that they rarely appear threatening enough to justify a confrontation. And so, you let them pass, not once, but many times, until the pattern of disguised disrespect has already been set. To recognize this form of disrespect, you must sharpen your awareness. Awareness is not paranoia. It is the discipline of observing not only the words spoken, but the energy beneath them. It is the practice of seeing patterns, not isolated events. A single dismissive comment may mean nothing, but repeated dismissals delivered with a smile are not accidents, they are signals. And unless you train yourself to listen beneath the words, you may miss what is being communicated in silence. Disrespect in disguise thrives on the willingness of others to minimize it. Society often encourages endurance over confrontation, especially for those taught to keep peace at all costs. "It's just a joke," people will say. Don't take it so seriously. But seriousness is exactly what is required when the foundation of respect is being chipped away. Each time you silence yourself in the face of disguised disrespect, you teach the other person that their behavior is permissible. You create a silent agreement, not by words but by inaction, that their disguised disrespect may continue. The danger here is not only external, it is internal as well. When you allow disguised disrespect to persist, it begins to reshape your own self-image. You start to doubt your instincts. You start to accept treatment that does not honor your worth. You begin to shrink your presence, lower your expectations, and convince yourself that endurance is strength. But true strength is not found in silent tolerance. It is found in the clarity to see when tolerance has become self-betrayal. Disguised disrespect also has the power to manipulate relationships. It can create bonds that appear supportive on the surface but are built on uneven ground. The person delivering disguised disrespect maintains control through subtle devaluations, while you carry the hidden weight of diminished self-respect. Over time, this imbalance deepens. You invest more energy into maintaining the connection, while receiving less recognition for your presence. The result is exhaustion, emotional, mental, and spiritual. To counter disguised disrespect, one must cultivate both inner strength and outer action. Inner strength begins with the unwavering belief that you are worthy of respect in every interaction. It is not arrogance. It is the recognition of dignity, a quality that is not given by others but already inherent within you. Outer action, on the other hand, is the willingness to name what you see, to draw boundaries, to refuse to participate in the cycle of disguised disrespect. Boundaries are not walls, they are guides that teach others how to engage with you. They are not built from anger, but from clarity. And clarity comes from recognizing that every disguised act of disrespect you allow shapes the environment you live in. Disrespect in disguise is also a reflection of fear. Those who cannot express themselves honestly often hide behind masks. Their disguised words reveal more about their insecurity than your inadequacy. Recognizing this truth does not excuse the behavior, but it does free you from taking it personally. It shifts your perspective from victimhood to observation. Instead of asking, why are they treating me this way? You begin to ask, what is it within them that requires this disguise? In this shift, you reclaim your power. Yet awareness alone is not enough. It must be followed by action. Sometimes the action is speaking directly. Sometimes it is distancing yourself quietly. And sometimes it is choosing silence, not as weakness, but as refusal to feed the disguised disrespect with reaction. The key is discernment, knowing when to confront, when to detach, and when to rise above without explanation. The practice of discerning disguised disrespect is ultimately a practice of self-respect. It demands that you stop overlooking small slights simply because they are small. It asks you to trust your intuition when something feels off, even if it cannot be fully explained in words. It challenges you to stop normalizing behaviors that corrode your sense of worth slowly over time. Respect is not optional. It is the foundation upon which all genuine relationships are built. Without it, no matter how much politeness or charm is present, the connection remains hollow. Disrespect in disguise is a test of vision. Can you see beyond the mask? Can you trust what your inner awareness tells you, even when the outer world minimizes it? Can you choose dignity over comfort, clarity over confusion, and strength over silence? It is not an easy practice, but it is a necessary one, because every disguised act of disrespect tolerated creates space for more of the same, and every disguised act of disrespect confronted becomes a declaration of self-respect. Words are not simply sounds that leave the mouth, they are forces, vibrations, and containers of intention. They move through space and touch not only the ears, but also the hearts and minds of those who receive them. When a word is spoken, it can never be taken back. It travels, it lingers, it shapes perception, and it carries the weight of meaning far beyond what the speaker often realizes. Control through words does not mean suppression or manipulation. It means cultivating an awareness of the energy each word holds and recognizing that what we release into the world begins to shape the world around us. From the earliest days of human civilization, words have been used to inspire, to lead, to heal, and also to destroy. Empires have risen on speeches, revolutions have ignited from declarations, and peace has been restored through dialogue. Words can soothe a broken spirit or shatter a strong one. They can create unity, or they can create division. To control words is therefore to take responsibility for the energy being transmitted. When one begins to understand that language is not neutral, that it is alive with direction, then one starts to see why careless speech often leads to careless outcomes. There is a discipline in speaking that requires deep silence before it. The silence is not an absence of sound but a presence of clarity. When words are born out of silence, they are measured, intentional, and aligned with truth. But when they are born out of haste, agitation, or ego, they scatter like broken fragments and cut both the one who speaks and the one who listens. Control through words, therefore, begins with the practice of inner control. To regulate speech, one must first regulate thought, and to regulate thought, one must cultivate awareness of the inner state. Consider how a single word spoken in anger can undo years of trust. A single harsh statement thrown without awareness can echo in the mind of another for decades. Yet the opposite is also true. A single encouraging phrase, offered at the right moment, can give someone the strength to endure hardship and rise above despair. This is the dual nature of words. They can become poison or medicine, depending on the consciousness of the one who speaks. To control them is not to limit expression, but to refine it, to sharpen it like a blade that only cuts what is necessary and never more. In many traditions, there is the belief that words carry a vibration that imprints itself into the very fabric of reality. Mantras, prayers, affirmations, and chants are not idle repetitions. They are intentional sound patterns that alter energy and direct focus. When someone repeats a mantra, it is not only the sound that matters, but the state of mind behind it. This shows us that words are more than communication tools, they are channels for energy. If energy can be elevated, purified, and directed, then words become instruments of transformation rather than weapons of reaction. One of the most challenging aspects of control through words is restraint. Silence is not weakness, it is power contained. Many people believe that they must answer every question, respond to every insult, and fill every space with their voice. But there is mastery in knowing when not to speak, when to allow words to dissolve before reaching the tongue. In silence, the storm of thought settles, and the truth of what must be spoken arises naturally. To speak with control is to allow words to flow not from compulsion but from clarity. Another aspect of control lies in listening. True control of words requires that one does not only focus on what is said, but also on what is received. Listening is the mirror of speaking. If one cannot listen deeply, then the words spoken will be disconnected from the needs of the moment. To listen fully is to open oneself to the energy behind words, not just the letters and sounds. It is to sense what is unsaid, to hear the silence between sentences, and to respond with words that address the essence, not just the surface. Every word carries intent, and intent directs energy. The discipline of choosing words is therefore the discipline of shaping outcomes. Those who use words carelessly will find themselves trapped by them, misunderstood by others, and misunderstood by themselves. But those who learn to control their words gradually begin to control their relationships, their environment, and even their destiny. To control words is to master expression, and to master expression is to master influence. One must also recognize the inner dialogue. The words spoken to oneself are often harsher and more frequent than those spoken to others. The mind repeats phrases of doubt, criticism, and limitation. These inner words are seeds planted in the soil of the subconscious, and they grow into the experiences we encounter. By gaining control over this inner language, by shifting from negative self-talk to words of encouragement and clarity, the individual transforms their inner landscape. When the inner words are purified, the outer words naturally follow with alignment and strength. Control through words is not domination but discipline. It is not the art of bending others with language, but the art of refining one's own communication so that it carries precision, truth, and harmony. It is understanding that once words are released, they no longer belong to the speaker but to the world. They travel, they expand, and they leave an imprint on the minds and hearts of others. This is why the mastery of words begins with the mastery of the self, for only when the inner world is balanced can the outer words become clear channels of intent and power. Self-worth is not something given, it is something realized. It does not arrive from the praise of others, nor from the recognition of society. True self-worth arises from within, from the quiet recognition that you are already complete. Many people move through life searching for approval, validation, and external confirmation of their value. They chase after titles, achievements, relationships, and possessions in the hope that these things will finally confirm their importance. But the paradox is clear. The more you chase worth from outside, the further you drift from the center where it already resides. When you understand self-worth, you stop bargaining with your own soul. You no longer exchange your peace for acceptance, your authenticity for attention, or your dignity for belonging. Instead, you recognize that your existence itself is the proof of value. Just as the sun shines without needing permission, and the river flows without needing applause, so too are you inherently worthy without the need for external confirmation. The problem is that most people forget this truth under the weight of comparison. They measure themselves against standards designed by others, and in doing so, they diminish the natural strength of their own being. The power of self-worth is not fragile. It does not shift with moods, with criticism, or with rejection. It is steady like the mountain that does not bow to the storm. When you carry true self-worth, rejection becomes redirection, criticism becomes reflection, and failure becomes education. Nothing can strip away what is rooted deep within you. And yet, many live with an invisible chain around their necks, enslaved to the approval of others. They do not see that this chain is of their own making, built from the belief that worth must be earned. But worth is not earned, it is lived. It is expressed through presence, through action, and through the courage to remain true to your own path. When you awaken to this truth, you stop asking, "Am I enough?" and instead declare, "I am." This is not arrogance but alignment. It is not pride but peace. Self-worth does not inflate the ego, it dissolves it. For the one who knows their worth does not need to boast, does not need to dominate, does not need to prove anything. Their presence alone speaks louder than their words. Think of the tree in the forest. It does not demand recognition. It does not try to convince others of its beauty or strength. It simply grows, rooted firmly in the ground, reaching toward the sky. Its worth is not measured by whether someone notices it or not. In the same way, your worth is not determined by who sees you, who praises you, or who acknowledges you. It is determined by the fact that you exist, that life chose to breathe itself into you, that consciousness flows through your being. When self-worth is absent, life feels heavy. Decisions become guided by fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of failure. Relationships are entered not from fullness but from lack, and work is pursued not from purpose but from desperation. But when self-worth is present, you walk with a different posture. You do not beg for love, you share love. You do not chase success, you create success. You do not fear being alone, for solitude becomes a companion rather than a punishment. The power of self-worth transforms how you interact with the world. It gives you the courage to set boundaries without guilt, to speak truth without fear, and to walk away from what diminishes your light. It teaches you that saying no is as sacred as saying yes. It reminds you that your time, your energy, and your presence are treasures, and not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. This awareness does not close your heart, it protects it. It does not build walls, it builds gates, gates that you choose when to open and when to keep closed. In many traditions, the journey of life is described as a return to the self. To return to the self is to remember your worth. It is to peel away the false identities, the borrowed beliefs, and the imposed labels that were never truly yours. Beneath them all lies the unshakable truth you are worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. The challenge is not to become worthy, but to stop forgetting that you already are. There is a quiet power that radiates from a person who knows their worth. They move with calmness, they speak with clarity, they love without clinging, and they give without depleting themselves. They do not need to be louder than others, for their silence speaks volumes. They do not need to win every battle, for their presence itself is a victory. This power is not loud, it is not aggressive, it is not showy, it is steady, like the flame of a candle that cannot be extinguished by the wind. When you recognize your worth, you free yourself from the endless cycle of seeking. You stop running toward recognition and start standing in truth. The world may not always reflect your value back to you, but that does not mean it is absent. Just as the moon shines even when clouds hide it from view, your worth remains even when others fail to see it. The recognition of others may come and go, but the recognition of the self must remain unwavering. Self-worth is not found in becoming more, but in remembering you are already enough. It is not discovered in the eyes of others, but in the quiet gaze you hold with yourself. It is the foundation upon which confidence is built, the root from which love grows, the soil in which peace flourishes. Without it, you drift endlessly, but with it, you stand firmly, unmoved by the shifting tides of opinion and circumstance. Silence is often misunderstood. People believe it is an absence, a lack of voice, a hollow space where nothing happens. But in truth, silence is not empty. It is full. It carries weight, resonance, and wisdom. It is often louder than the most forceful speech because it penetrates beyond words, beyond the intellect, and reaches directly into the heart. Silence is not passive. It is a living force. It shapes the way we connect with ourselves and with others. It is the foundation upon which clarity rests. It is where true power begins to unfold. When silence enters a room, everything changes. People shift, attention sharpens, and the energy alters. A single pause can carry more meaning than 1,000 words. A moment of stillness can reveal truths that language struggles to capture. It is not only what is withheld that makes silence powerful, but what it awakens in the listener. In silence, one becomes attentive, alert, and open. Suddenly, subtleties that were hidden in the noise begin to surface. The smallest gestures, the softest changes in tone, the invisible emotions, they all become amplified when silence is present. In a world where noise dominates, silence becomes rare. Every moment is filled with distractions, constant streams of information, endless conversations, and an overflow of opinions. People fear silence because it strips away the layers that noise helps to conceal. Without the noise, there is only yourself. There is the truth you cannot escape, the feelings you can no longer suppress, the thoughts you can no longer ignore, That is why many run from it, filling their lives with constant sound to avoid facing what lies beneath. But to embrace silence is to confront reality as it is. It is to meet yourself without disguise. There is a discipline in silence. It teaches patience, it trains awareness, and it demands humility. To remain silent when words could be spoken requires strength. To choose stillness when action is possible requires restraint. This discipline does not weaken, it strengthens. It transforms silence into a weapon sharper than any blade, into a shield stronger than any armor. Silence allows energy to be gathered rather than wasted. It teaches one to conserve rather than scatter. In silence, power accumulates, and when finally released, it carries the force of everything that has been restrained. Silence is also communication. It is not the absence of dialogue, but the highest form of it. It speaks of presence, of attention, of listening deeply without the need to interrupt. Silence between two people can reveal more than words ever could. It can hold intimacy, it can hold tension, it can hold understanding. It creates a space where something unspoken can be felt and acknowledged. To sit in silence with someone without discomfort is a sign of trust, of connection, of something deeper than language. Silence speaks in its own vocabulary, and only those willing to listen can truly hear it. There is a silence within as well. The inner silence is not achieved by the absence of outer sound, but by stilling the turbulence of the mind. A mind that is restless will create noise even in the quietest place. A mind that is still will carry silence even in the loudest crowd. Inner silence arises when one no longer clings to every thought, when one allows emotions to flow without being enslaved by them, when one observes instead of reacts. This silence is profound because it does not depend on circumstance. It is not fragile, it is not broken by noise, it is constant, unshakable, like a mountain unmoved by passing winds. In silence, clarity is born. Confusion thrives in noise, where endless voices and distractions compete for attention. But silence allows the mind to settle like muddy water left undisturbed. Slowly the sediment falls and the water becomes clear. In the same way, silence clears the mind of clutter, of unnecessary worry, of restless chatter. It allows decisions to be made with precision rather than haste. It reveals the path that is hidden under the debris of noise. Silence gives rise to insight, and insight gives rise to wisdom. Silence is also strength in conflict. Many believe strength comes from overpowering the other with words, with arguments, with sheer volume. But silence can disarm in ways aggression never can. Silence refuses to feed conflict. It absorbs and diffuses it. It does not concede, but it does not inflame either. In silence, there is no weakness. There is composure, control, and mastery. It is the quiet strength that unsettles because it cannot be manipulated, provoked, or bent. To remain silent in the face of provocation is not avoidance, it is command over the self. Even nature teaches us that silence speaks louder. The forest is alive with sound, yet beneath the noise lies an unspoken harmony. The ocean roars, yet within its vastness is a silence that humbles the soul. The sky stretches endlessly silent in its vastness, and in that silence one feels the immensity of existence. Silence speaks through the vast, the infinite, the things too great to be captured in words. To stand in silence before such immensity is to be reminded of our place, of the limits of our language, of the depth that words can never touch. To cultivate silence is to cultivate power. It is to create a space where life itself can be heard. It is to sharpen the senses, to deepen awareness, to strengthen presence. Silence trains the heart to feel more and the mind to see more. It does not diminish expression, it refines it. Words that rise out of silence carry weight, just as actions born of stillness carry purpose. Noise is common, silence is rare. But it is the rare that carries value. It is the silence that leaves the deepest impression, that lingers long after the sound has faded, that continues to speak even when nothing is said. There is a reason why in every culture, in every ancient teaching, there is mention of the unseen force within us. Some call it Sha, others call it life force, some describe it as vital energy. Regardless of the name, it is the essence that animates our body, that fuels our thoughts, and that gives weight to our presence in the world. When you enter a room, people feel it. When you speak, others hear not only your words but also the vibration of your energy. And yet, in the pace of modern life, this most precious resource is the one most neglected. People guard their wealth, they guard their possessions, they guard their status, but they allow their energy to leak in countless ways without realizing the cost. To guard your energy is to guard the foundation of your existence. Energy is subtle. It does not always announce when it is being drained. Sometimes it disappears in small increments. The unnecessary argument, the endless scrolling, the worry about events you cannot control. Sometimes it vanishes in large bursts, toxic relationships, environments filled with constant negativity, commitments that exhaust without nourishing. Every time your energy is spent unconsciously, your reservoir weakens, and when the reservoir is weak, clarity disappears, resilience crumbles, and even the smallest challenges become mountains. To guard your energy is to cultivate awareness of what strengthens you and what depletes you. The first principle in guarding your energy is learning to say no, not as an act of rejection, but as an act of preservation. Every yes you give is a portion of your energy invested. If the cause is worthy, if it aligns with your values, that energy multiplies and returns to you. But if the yes is forced, if it arises from guilt, fear, or the desire to please, then your energy becomes a currency spent without return. Many are exhausted not because life is demanding, but because they are scattering their energy on paths that do not belong to them. To guard your energy is to choose with precision where you place your focus, because focus is fuel. Guarding your energy also requires protection from the internal thieves, not only the external ones. Negative thought patterns, endless self-criticism, and the replaying of past regrets consume as much life force as any outside influence. The mind is powerful, but it can also become the greatest drain if left unchecked. Energy follows attention. If your attention is constantly directed to what is lacking, what is broken, what is fearful, then your energy is continually poured into building those realities. Guarding your energy begins by training the mind to remain present, to dwell less on what cannot be changed, and to return again and again to the simplicity of this moment. Breath is one of the purest ways to protect and replenish energy. The breath is not just oxygen for the body, it is a carrier of life force. Shallow breathing reflects shallow energy. Deep, mindful breathing strengthens the reservoir and stabilizes the mind. This is why in every tradition of martial arts, meditation, and healing practices, attention is given to the breath. It is both shield and source. To guard your energy is to master your breath, to use it as a tool to ground yourself in chaos, to expand your capacity when you feel depleted, to anchor your awareness when thoughts attempt to scatter your presence. Energy is also relational. The people you interact with daily affect the flow within you. Some lift you, inspire you, challenge you to rise higher. Others drain you with complaints, doubts, or demands. Guarding your energy is not about cutting yourself off from the world, but about cultivating discernment. You can still be compassionate without absorbing negativity. You can still listen without carrying another's burden on your shoulders. True compassion does not mean weakening yourself to lift another. It means remaining strong enough to be present without being consumed. Boundaries are not barriers. They are the lines that allow your energy to remain intact while you navigate the world. Nature, too, is a guardian of energy. When you spend time in silence among trees, rivers, mountains, you notice how your body recharges without effort. The stillness of nature mirrors the stillness within, reminding you of the natural rhythm that modern living often disrupts. Guarding your energy involves returning to these spaces that replenish, making them a part of your rhythm. Just as vital as food or rest, energy needs restoration. Just as muscles need recovery after exertion, the spirit needs silence after chaos. Another way energy is lost is through constant comparison. When attention is directed outward to measure yourself against others, the present moment is abandoned. You leak energy by desiring what you do not have, by resenting what others possess, by convincing yourself that you are less. Guarding your energy is remembering that comparison is an endless cycle with no reward. Energy is strengthened not by competing with others, but by aligning with your own path, by recognizing that the universe has entrusted you with a unique expression of life that cannot be duplicated. Stillness is also a form of protection. When you allow silence, when you allow pauses in your daily rhythm, you give space for energy to collect rather than disperse. The modern world glorifies constant activity, constant productivity, constant noise. But in this chase, people wonder why they feel exhausted, even when they are achieving more. It is not the lack of strength, but the absence of stillness. Guarding your energy means daring to be still in a world that demands constant motion, choosing rest not as laziness, but as wisdom. Energy transforms everything. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you think, these are all direct reflections of the energy you guard or neglect. A calm presence influences others without words. A restless energy creates confusion even in silence. Guarding your energy is not only for yourself, but also for the impact you bring into every interaction. To walk into a space with centered energy is to offer clarity, peace, and strength to those around you without effort. Your energy is your true wealth. When it is scattered, you are vulnerable. When it is preserved, you are powerful. To guard your energy is to recognize that every thought, every breath, every choice is either an investment or a loss. It is to live with awareness, to cultivate discipline, to treat this invisible force as sacred, because it is the root from which all action, all creation, all transformation begins